Forces. So we're going to look at types of forces. And in our explanation of forces, explain what a force is and how it's measured, describe the difference between contact and non-contact forces, and give some examples. That's what we're going to be doing today. So I'd like you to give me the test on that. So why are we learning this? Forces are most important factors in everyday life. They affect everything around us, causing stopping, maintaining motion. It's important to understand the different types of forces and how they impact us, and in order to safely navigate our world. We'll be using Nearpod and polling. You'll also be asked to read about the forces as well and watch a couple of videos. Make sure you do this by Friday, where the quiz. We'll have the quiz on Friday. Okay? So complete exit tickets, and that will be important. You get some extra points for that. So a force is a push or pull of an object. Identify something as a force to you. So, if you think about it, if you've got a wheelbarrow, right, with a wheel here, if you're pushing it, here you are, and you're pushing it, your feet, and you're pushing this way, that's a force. You're pushing that with a force. So lots of other examples, but that's what I think of. So what can we do? What can a force do? A force can make an object move. A force can make an object stop. A force can change the speed of a moving object. A force can change the direction of an object. So like in this baseball, hit it, it's going in one direction, it's going to leave the baseball. A force can change the shape of an object. So let's review contact and non-contact forces. A contact force is a push or pull of an object. Examples of contact, so making physical contact, include frictional forces. So here's friction on this block of wood, let's say. Buoyant forces, so buoyant means it's floating in water. So something that's floating in water. Tension forces, like a piece of rope, and you're pulling on that piece of rope with your hand. That's tension, or you're holding yourself up. Normal forces, those are the forces that when you put a box on the ground is holding it up, or a box on a table, it's the surface that's holding it up. Air resistance are forces, and applied forces are the pushing and pulling. So list contact forces. So again, pushing and pulling. So what we call applied forces. So we are applying a force. So like if I am walking and I'm mowing lawn, I've got a nice electric lawnmower, electric motor here, some wheels here. So I'm applying a force in this direction as I mow the lawn. And there goes the grass. So contact forces can be applied forces. You're applying to an object. So you're pushing something, an object, a wheelbarrow, something like that. Normal force is called a support force. Exerted on an object. So if I put a bunch of books on a table, all right, so the support that the table makes pushing back up, so the weight of these books pushing on the table, the normal force is pushing back up. so it doesn't go all the way through. Frictional force, so rough road has a lot more frictional force than maybe ice. Air resistance is a special frictional force that acts on objects that are traveling through the air. Right? So if you've seen a rocket re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, it heats up quite a bit. It starts to burn, needs to have some sort of burn protection. Tension force is a force transmitted through a string, rope, or cable. And spring force and exerted, compressed on a spring. So, your scale, most scales that you stand on with your feet. Here's your foot and your leg. So there's usually springs in here that move back and forth, or move down. All right, so what are non-contact forces? Non-contact forces result from two interacting of objects in a non-physical way. So examples would be gravitational force as a pull on you to the center of the earth, causes you to have weight. Electrical forces like static electricity. I'm having a lot of problems with that when I pet my cat, feel that static force. Papers start to cling to things. And magnetic forces, there's a force of a magnet on a piece of metal. And it's a non-contact force. You can feel it, especially if you are trying to pull something like a magnet. Some really interesting magnet short videos, amazing what they're doing. If you ever watch some of those, I'll try to find some for you. Okay, so the types of non-contact forces: gravitational force, electrical force, and magnetic force. Not touching, non-contact. Okay, makes sense. Gravity is a gravitational force is a force of attraction between two objects. A force of gravity is force exerted by gravitational field on a massive object or any body within the vicinity of the object. So gravitational force is anybody. So even you have gravitational force just because of your mass. The larger the object is, the more gravity it has. Leaves fall to the earth because of gravity, and then air resistance will slow it down. Magnetic force of an object is caused by magnets. Magnets exert a force in a region called the magnetic field, and you can see these magnetic field lines. They kind of curve from north to south. If you've ever seen a bar magnet submersed in oil, and then they have like some metal filings in there, you can see the magnetic field. A magnet will attract any magnetic material like nickel, iron, or cobalt that are close enough. They do not need to be touching it to have an effect. A magnet is an object that has atoms aligned in such a way that it produces invisible fields around them. So the field, so like these magnetic domains are random, and sometimes you can take a magnet and then pass another magnet over, and then you'll align these magnetic fields, and then they'll become magnetized. Sometimes you can drop a magnet and lose, and then become random again, and then they're not magnetic anymore. So an electrical force is invisible charges created by electrical charges. So if you take a balloon, rub it against your hair, then you can get a charge on the balloon, and then you can have it attract to a wall. Okay, positive and negatives attract, but positives repel. Electrical forces which hold atoms together, the proton and electrons, have opposite charges, and despite their small physical separation, some of these exert a pull on each other. Remember, opposites attract. Okay, so gravitational, the force attracts two objects. Force over a distance. So Example, the Earth and the Moon have attraction to each other, keeps them in orbit. Magnetic forces, an attractive or repulsive force. Notice that gravitational doesn't have a repulsive force, but magnetic has a repulsive force. North and south attract, but north and north don't. Electrostatic force is exerted between two charged objects. Types of forces. Contact forces, applied force is a contact force, spring force, air resistance, frictional force, normal force, remember that's a supportive force, and the tension between a rope. Non-contact are magnetic, electrical force, and gravitational. All right, so let's decide what to do with this. So non-contact force is this one, magnets. Contact force would be this normal supporting force of the table. Frictional force of this bike brake. The pulling of, here's a worm, so that's a tension force. Air resistance. And applied force, where you're actually pushing things. But non-contact force would be gravity pulling us down and electrostatic. It doesn't have to be touching in order for it to work. All right, connect the lines between these two. Baby sitting in a stroller, that's an applied. The baby sitting in a stroller, that's a normal force because the stroller is pushing, gravity's pushing down, but the stroller is the supporting force that pushes in the opposite direction. Woman being pulled to the ground, that is the gravitational force. Woman pushing the stroller is an applied force, and the stroller wheels against the ground is a frictional force. All right, so explain why air resistance is considered a contact force, not a non-contact force. Well, you can feel air, right? You can feel the air, you can feel it pushing, so it is a force you can actually feel. The air comes in contact with you, not like it's not there. So air has mass. So it has mass and it can move things. So air can move things because it has mass. All right, so contact or non-contact, gravity. Let's go ahead and see if I get this one. Gravity is a non-contact. The field. Tension is a contact. That's when you got a pulling on a rope. Applied is a pushing. That's a contact. Normal is that supportive force. That's a contact. Magnetic is non-contact. Air resistance is contact. Electrical is a non-contact. Water pushing up is a contact. And friction from the ground is a contact. All right, that's all I have for you guys today.